Hi, this is Once Upon a Page with Miss JoJo. Come read with me.
Inspiring Stories for Happy Kids, Meggy's Magical Adventure by Lara Bloom. The Secret of Grandma's Beach House. Meggy pressed her nose to the window as the car rolled into Sunny Cove. The sky was painted soft orange and pink, and the ocean sparkled like it was full of diamonds. She rolled down the window so she could hear the waves crash gently on the shore. When she leaned her head out, she could see tiny sand crabs skittering across the beach. They scurried like they had somewhere very important to be. "We're here," Meggy cheered, bouncing in her seat. Her mom smiled. "Grandma's been waiting all week." "I've been waiting longer than that," Meggy insisted. "I always loved seeing Grandma. Every summer of Meggy's 6 years on Earth, they spent at Grandma's beach house. It was her favorite place to be." Grandma's beach house stood at the end of a winding shell-covered path. It was old and charming, with faded blue shutters and a porch that wrapped around like a big, warm hug. A swing creaked in the breeze, and the salty sea air tickled Meggy's cheeks. Grandma opened the door before they could knock. She wore her favorite floppy sun hat and smelled like cinnamon and sunshine. "My Meggy bean," she said, scooping her into a hug. "You've grown taller than a sand dune." Meggy giggled. "That's really tall." Inside the house was just as Meggy remembered. There were cozy quilts on the couch and creaky wooden floors beneath her feet. Even from the door, Meggy could see the seashells tucked into every corner. But something felt different this summer. It almost seemed like the house was waiting for something. Meggy tried to ignore the strange thought and focus on having fun with her grandma. That night, rain tapped on the roof like a secret message. Thunder rolled across the sky, and lightning flashed in the distance. Meggy cuddled under the covers with her stuffed dolphin, Bubbles. She couldn't sleep, not with that strange glow coming from under her bedroom door. Curious, she tiptoed down the hallway and followed the light. It led her to the attic stairs. Creak, creak. Step by careful step, she climbed up the attic. Lightning flashed outside the round window, illuminating her way. In the corner, something sparkled. It was a book, but not just any book. It glowed like it had a tiny sun inside. The cover was soft, like sea glass, and on front, swirling gold letters read, "The Book of Wonder Shore." As Meggy reached out, a soft light floated up from the book's edge. It wasn't lightning, it wasn't a lamp, it was a firefly. "Hi," the tiny light said in a voice like wind chimes. "I'm Luna." Meggy blinked. "You talk?" "I do," Luna said, twirling in the air. "Because you found the book. That means you're the right kind of curious." Meggy sat cross-legged on the attic floor. "What's Wonder Shore?" Luna landed on the book's cover. "A magical realm tied to this world. It's hidden behind things most people don't notice. Forgotten doors, buried maps, glowing necklaces, stuff like that." Meggy touched the shell necklace Grandma had given her that morning. It had a soft blue shimmer, and now it was glowing. "Your necklace is part of it," Luna said with a twinkle. "It's waking up because you are waking up. Wonder Shore needs you." "Me?" Meggy's eyes grew wide. "But I'm just a kid." "Exactly," said Luna. "Only brave hearts and wild imaginations can enter. Adults forget how to see the magic." The book flipped open on its own. A warm breeze filled the attic, carrying the scent of ocean rain. "Come on," said Luna. "The first door is near the dunes. You'll know it when you feel it." Before Meggy could ask more, the book snapped shut, and the attic faded. She was back in the bed, the necklace now the same blue it was when Grandma gave it to her. Had she dreamed it all? The next morning, Meggy ate toast with strawberry jam and couldn't stop thinking about the attic. Her parents packed for a beach walk, but Meggy asked to explore on her own. "Just stay close to the house," her mom said. Meggy nodded and headed down the sandy path behind the dunes. She didn't feel alone with the seagrass whispering in the breeze. Then zap! Her necklace glowed again. She looked down and gasped. The sand beneath her feet was swirling like it was drawing pictures. A shell, a key, a door. Meggy knelt and brushed the sand aside. There, hidden under driftwood and seaweed, was a tiny wooden door set into the dune. It was no bigger than a shoebox, but it shimmered like moonlight on water. Her heart thumped. She reached for the handle and the door creaked open. Inside was a tunnel made of coral and glass, glowing pink and blue. Luna fluttered into view. "You made it," she cheered. Meggy crawled inside. The tunnel grew wider and taller until she could stand. She followed Luna through twists and turns until finally she stepped out into a whole new world. The sky above was swirling with colors she couldn't name. Trees had leaves flapping like butterfly wings. The sand sparkled like sugar and waves lapped gently at the shore, singing soft lullabies. "This," said Luna, "is Wonder Shore." Meggy's jaw dropped. "It's real." Luna nodded, and this is only the beginning. As Meggy walked toward the glowing tide, she knew one thing for sure. This summer was going to be full of secrets, stories, and so much magic. Chapter 2. The Whispering Forest and the Lost Feather. The next morning, Sunny Cove sparkled with sunshine and sea breeze. Meggy helped Grandma hang wind chimes on the porch. There were delicate strands made of sea glass and scalloped shells. Each piece was smoothed by time and tide. The sea glass caught the morning light in the glimmers of turquoise and jade. The shells clicked gently together, whispering secrets from the ocean deep. When the wind passed through, the chimes tinkled with like mermaid laughter. "You've got the beach in your bones now," Grandma said with a wink. Meggy smiled. She felt different, braver, like the wind knew her name. Later, while her parents went into town for groceries, Meggy wandered to the edge of Grandma's backyard. In the back corner, a small forest of pine trees huddled together like they were sharing secrets. That's when she heard the whispers. Meggy froze. The wind? No, it was coming from the trees. She stepped closer. The whispering grew louder. It wasn't scary, just curious, like it was calling her gently. Meggy touched her shell necklace. It shimmered softly, as if it were cheering her on. "I can do this," she whispered to herself, heart thudding. "I'm brave." She took a deep breath and stepped beneath the trees. The forest was cooler, quieter. Meggy felt like she was stepping into a sleepy dream. Ferns brushed her ankles. Birds chirped overhead. The sunlight filtered through the branches in golden puddles. Shh! Feather lost. Meggy paused. "Who's whispering?" A tall birch tree answers. Its bark rippled like silk. "The balance is shifting." "What balance?" Meggy asked. "Follow the hush," the tree replied. "Follow the hush and find the feather." Meggy's heart beat faster, but she moved forward. She remembered what Luna had said. Only brave hearts and wild imaginations can enter. Just then, whoomp! A pile of leaves tumbled from a branch above. Out popped a small chipmunk wearing a tiny acorn cap. "Wow, you nearly squished me," he squeaked. "Sorry," Meggy said, startled. "I'm looking for a feather." The chipmunk stood, brushed off its fur, and he looked at her with bright eyes. "A rainbow feather by chance?" Meggy nodded. "Oh, that's a big deal," he said, puffing out his chest. "The feather belongs to Ollie the owl. It keeps the forest steady. Seasons, songs, squirrels' nests, all of it." "Where is it?" Meggy asked. "Gone," the chipmunk said, spinning dramatically. "Vanished in the night. One moment it was perched on Ollie's stand, glowing like moon fruit, and the next, poof." "Can I help?" Meggy asked. The chipmunk tilted his head. "You don't look very owlish." "I'm Meggy," she said, "and I'm trying to help." "Well, I'm Nibble," he said, bowing. "Follow me, but watch your step. Some of these mushrooms get angry if they're trampled." Meggy could understand their concerns. She looked at the ground before each step. She followed behind Nibble, and as they walked deeper into the forest, the trees leaned in close. Their whispers tickled Meggy's ears. "Brave girl, clever heart." A patch of moss lifted its head like a pillow. "Follow the music, child." "Music?" Meggy asked. Shh, said Nibble. Listen. Meggy closed her eyes. At first she heard only birds and leaves, but then, faint and high, like a flute made of starlight, she heard a song. They followed to a clearing where the enormous owl perched on a low branch. He was round and soft-looking, with golden feathers and spectacles perched on his beak. "Ollie," cried Nibble, "we brought help." Ollie blinked slowly. "You brought a human child?" "She got the necklace," Nibble whispered. "She sees." Ollie hooted softly. Then maybe, just maybe, he turned to Meggy. "Little one, I am Ollie, keeper of balance in the whispering forest. Last night, my rainbow feather vanished. Without it, the forest will wobble. Rains may not come, leaves may forget to turn, and chipmunks may start singing off key." "Hey," said Nibble. Meggy nodded. "I want to help, but how do we find it?" Ollie's feathers ruffled with a sigh. "The feather is tied to the forest's heart, but the heart hides when things are uncertain." "Do we have to solve a riddle?" Meggy asked. Ollie's eyes twinkled. "Yes. Listen well." He leaned in and spoke. "Feather lost, in light not seen, where shadows fall and stars have been. Trust your step through fear may bite. The truth will glow in deepest night." Meggy repeated aloud. "So, we have to go somewhere dark?" "The feather hides where fear grows," Ollie said, "but only you can find it." "Why me?" "Because only the brave step into the hush." Meggy gulped. He didn't like the dark very much. She still slept with the night light, but the forest needed her. She thought of Grandma's kindness, Luna's sparkle, and her own heart full of questions and courage. "I'll do it," she said. Ollie gently handed her a glowing leaf. "This will guide you part way, but the rest, you must trust yourself." Nibble walked with her until the trees grew so the tall sunlight disappeared. "This is where I stop," he whispered. "You've got this, Meggy." Meggy held the glowing leaf close. It shimmered pale green, lighting the mossy path. The air grew cool. Shadows danced on the trunks. She walked carefully. The dark pressed in, but she remembered Ollie's riddle. Trust your step. Her necklace began to glow, casting a soft blue light. Then she heard it. Not whispers, a song! But not like before. This one was deeper, like a lullaby sung by the earth itself. She followed the sound until she reached a small hollow. Moonlight poured through a hole in the canopy. There, floating in the center, was the feather. It shimmered in every color, blue, gold, green, and even shades Meggy didn't have names for. It pulsed gently, like it was alive. Meggy reached out. The moment her fingers touched it, the dark vanished. The trees lit up with soft light. Flowers bloomed. The air warmed. Balance returned. Back in the clearing, Ollie bowed low. "You did it," he said. "You listened. You trusted. You were brave." Nibble spun with joy. The songs are back. The trees whispered louder now, joyful, grateful. Meggy smiled, her heart light as a breeze. She hadn't just found a feather, she had found her courage, made a new friend, and discovered the magic of kindness and trust. Maybe the dark wasn't so scary after all, especially when you carry your own light inside. Nice little coloring page. The Mermaid and the Stolen Songs. The tide was out, and the sand was warm between Meggy's toes as she wandered the beach after lunch. She was collecting sea glass. She had a handful of green, blue, and pink pieces that sparkled like candy. Then her shell necklace gave a sudden, gentle glow. Meggy looked down. The shell shimmered brighter than before, pulsing softly in rhythm with the waves. "I guess we're going back to the sea," she whispered. She followed the glow toward the edge of the rocks, where the ocean met a tide pool shaped like a heart. The water glistened like liquid glass, cradled in the nest of bound stone. Sea foam clung to the edges like lace, and tiny hermit crabs scurried away as Meggy approached. The air was salty and still, heavy with the hush that comes before something important. Even the gulls had gone quiet. The water in the tide pool began to twirl. Then, from beneath the surface, a head emerged. She saw shiny black hair, skin that shimmered like moonlight, and a necklace of coral and pearls. A mermaid! Meggy's breath caught. She blinked twice just to be sure. The mermaid looked at her wide, worried eyes. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out, only bubbles. "Oh," Meggy whispered, "you've lost your voice?" The mermaid nodded, her eyes filled with tears. Just then, Luna the firefly zipped out of Meggy's pocket, blinking with concern. "Meggy, this is Mira. She's one of the sea singers. They calm the waves with their music." "But she can't sing," Meggy said. "What happened?" Mira lifted a shell from the tide pool and pressed it to Meggy's ear. Instead of ocean sounds, Meggy heard a melody, a sad, empty echo where a song used to be. Then a whisper, "Stolen by claws, forgotten." Meggy looked at Luna. "Claws? Like crabs?" Luna bobbed in the air. "It's possible. The sea crabs have been restless lately. Something stirred them up." Mira pressed her hands together in a pleading gesture. "I'll help," Meggy said without hesitation. "We'll get your songs back." She didn't know exactly how, but she believed she could, and that belief made her brave. The journey to the Crab Cove was not easy. Meggy had to tiptoe across the slick rocks, steadying herself with deep breaths. She waded through the kelp bed where curious seahorses peeked. She stayed balanced even with the bubbles tickled her legs. She was determined to press forward. Finally, she reached a craggy inlet hidden by tall seagrass. The sand here was full of holes. It looked like something had turned underneath. Suddenly, pop! A bright red crab appeared in front of her, claws raised. Then another, and another. In seconds, Meggy was surrounded by dozens of tiny crabs, clicking and scudding in a big circle. "I'm not here to hurt you," Meggy said, quickly holding her hands up. "I'm here to listen." The largest crab, a royal blue one with its massive claw, stepped forward. "Why should we believe you, landwalker?" Meggy knelt down. "I just want to help Mira get her songs back." "Those songs were never hers," said the crab. "They belong to the ocean, to all of us." More crabs clicked in agreement. "But you stole them," Meggy said gently, "and now the sea is upset." "We didn't steal," the crab replied, tapping a small shell. "We saved them. No one listens to crabs. The mermaids get all the magic, all the praise. But we are the cleaners, the builders, the keepers of tide and time." Meggy looked at their tiny faces. She could tell they were frustrated, sad, and proud. "I think you're right," she said honestly. "You've been left out, forgotten. That's not fair." But taking the songs only created more sadness. The crab paused. Then what would help? Meggy sat on a rock and thought hard. What if you helped sing the songs, shared them? Mary could sing the melody and you could tap out the rhythm. It could be a concert of kindness. The crabs exchanged glances. "You mean be part of the music?" "Yes," Meggy said. "A sea band. Everyone has a part to play. We're all better than we work together." The blue crab blinked. "That's never been done before." "But it could be," Meggy said, "if you're willing to try. You don't have to be loud to matter." The crabs chattered among themselves. Finally, the blue one nodded. "Very well. We'll return the songs on one condition." "What is it?" Meggy asked. "You have to clap when we perform." Meggy beamed. "Deal." Back at the tide pool, Mira waited, her voice still silent. When the crabs arrived, they scuttered into formation like a tiny orchestra. In the sunlight, their shells shimmered like fancy clothing. The blue crab stepped forward, lifted a small coral shell, and ding! A note echoed across the beach. Another crab joined in, tapping a sand dollar like a drum. A third crab clicked its claws in rhythm so joyful, even Luna started blinking in time. Mira opened her mouth. Her voice flowed out like honey and light, filled with joy and salt and stars. The sea calmed, the wind sighed, and the tide pool glowed silver. Meggy clapped and cheered, not just because it was beautiful, but because it was shared. She had helped make something new together. The blue crab gave a shy bow. We accept this partnership. Mira swam close to Meggy and held her hand. Then she reached up, plucked a shimmering pearl from her necklace, and placed it on Meggy's palm. For me? Meggy asked. Mira nodded and smiled. Luna twirled in the air. That's a pearl of harmony, a symbol of peace between sea and shore. Meggy's shell necklace sparkled again, brighter than ever. The music had returned, and now it belonged to everyone.
Mama.
Chapter 4. The Blueberry Garden Rescue. The morning sun peeked through the curtains of Grandma's beach house. It painted golden stripes across Meggy's bed. A soft breeze fluttered in from the window, carrying the scent of salt and sunshine. Meggy sniffed the air and smelled. Something sweet? Meggy sat up and sniffed again. It smelled like strawberries, bubblegum, and sunshine all mixed together. That's new, she whispered, sliding out of bed. She tiptoed downstairs and out the door. She followed her nose down a winding trail behind Grandma's garden. The scent grew stronger with every step, warm and fizzy like laughter in the air. When she reached the sand dunes, a voice called out, "Meggy, wait up!" She turned and saw Grandma's neighbor's son, Jax, jogging toward her. He was wearing his usual mismatched sneakers and carrying a small sketchbook tucked under one arm. "I thought the smell was breakfast, but when I saw you following your nose, I knew I wanted to come along," he said. Meggy pointed to her glowing necklace. "This means we're going on an adventure." The two friends reached out and touched the dune together, and with a soft shh, the sand parted like a curtain and revealed a staircase spiraling downward. Meggy and Jax exchanged a wide-eyed look, then followed the stairs into the cool, glowing light below. At the bottom, they gasped. It was a hidden garden, magical and alive. Vines with candy-colored leaves curled around glowing trees. The leaves rustled like whispers. Like puffs of plants bobbed in the air like bubbles. Flower petals sparkled as though dipped in morning dew. Everything shimmered like laughter frozen time. At the center were rows of tall, twisty plants covered in glittery, glowing berries. Some were blue, some pink, and some the color of moonlight. "The blueberry garden," said Luna, fluttering beside Meggy and Jax. "Only those with curious hearts can find it." Suddenly, something tiny zipped past Meggy's ear and giggled. She turned and saw them flying around Jax's ears too. They were little creatures, no bigger than cupcakes. They had wings like flower petals and fur like dandelions. Their eyes sparkled like tiny stars. One flew right up to Meggy's nose. "Hi, I'm Fluffy, named Twibble. You're tall." Meggy giggled. "Hi, Twibble. I'm Meggy." "Meggy's tall," another Fluffy chirped, "and kind, and has a glowy necklace." Soon, Meggy and Jax were surrounded by giggling Fluffies. They were all zooming and spinning through the air. Their laughter felt like being wrapped in a hug. Twibble clapped his tiny hands. "Come see the blueberries." But, he looked down, suddenly worried. "There's a problem." "What kind of problem?" Meggy asked. The Fluffies guided her to a patch of blueberry bushes that looked thin and wilted. "Berries are vanishing," Twibble said sadly. "Every night, more are gone. We take such good care of them. We water them with song, and we brush their leaves, and we tell them bedtime stories." Jax knelt and touched one of the plants gently. "They look thirsty." Twibble nodded. "We try so hard, but the gobblebugs keep stealing them." "Gobblebugs?" Luna asked. Twibble shivered. "They're big and grumpy and hungry. They sneak in through the roots and gobble up the berries from below." Just then, the ground gave a tiny shake. Meggy crouched. "Did you feel that?" The earth wiggled again. A moment later, a berry above her head popped off its stem and disappeared into the dirt. "They're here!" cried a Fluffy. "The gobblebugs are back." Meggy frowned. "We have to stop them. But how?" Luna blinked thoughtfully. "Not with traps. Gobblebugs don't understand force. They understand hunger." "They're not mean," Jack said. "They're just trying to eat." Meggy thought hard. Being brave didn't always mean being loud. Sometimes it meant listening closely, even to those who couldn't speak. "What if we made them their own patch of berries?" Meggy said. The Fluffies gasped. "You mean share?" "Yes," Jack said. "That's a great idea. If we give them a garden just for them, they won't have to sneak and steal, and the rest of the garden can grow strong again." "But how will we keep them in their patch?" asked Twibble. Meggy grinned. "With flavor." The Fluffies led Meggy, Jax, and Luna to a quiet corner of the garden where the soil was soft and untouched. Meggy used a shell to dig little berry holes. The Fluffies brought over bubbleberry seeds that had speckles and spark. "These are tartberry seeds," Twibble explained. "They make berries a little sour." "Fluffies don't like them much, but gobblebugs might love them," Meggy said. Together, they planted the seeds and sang the watering song. "Grow and grow with love below, sun above and kindness to show." Within moments, the seeds sprouted. Curling vines burst from the ground, and tartberries formed, big and bouncy and bright. Then, the ground trembled again. From beneath the soil, 3 gobblebugs burst up. They were round like fuzzy rocks with little eyes and giant noses. They sniffed the air. Sniff, sniff. New smell. Sour smell. Yummy smell. They sniffed and shuffled toward the new patch, tongues flicking out like puppy dogs. They each bit a berry, and their eyes lit up. "Sour is good," one burbled. "Tummy is happy." "No more stealing," said another. "We stay here. Make burrow home." Meggy stepped forward. "If you promise to only eat this patch, the garden will be safe again." The gobblebugs nodded and began happily tunneling below their new garden. They were all humming in their deep, rumbly voices. The Fluffies cheered. Twibble zoomed around Meg and Jax in joy. "You saved the garden! With sharing!" Luna smiled. "That's real magic. When we understand each other, everyone wins." Twibble reached into the leaves and pulled out a small glowing berry that floated like a bubble. "For you," he said, "a bubbleberry charm. It will remind you that caring for others, even the greedy ones, is always worth it." Meggy slipped and charm onto a loop next to her necklace. It shimmered with soft light, glowing with pride and purpose. She looked around at her friend Jax. The smiling Fluffies, the happy gobblebugs, and the restored garden burst with color. "I'll never forget this place," she whispered. She and Jax climbed the spiral stairs back toward the sun. The scent of bubbleberries followed them all the way home. Chapter 5. The Goose Who Thought He Was a Dog. One sunny morning, Meggy was skipping stones at the beach when a loud woof echoed across the water. "Did someone bring their dog to the ocean?" asked Jax, who was trying to launch his paper sailboat. Meggy frowned. "I don't see any dogs." Then, with a great splash, a large white goose burst from the water with his wings flapping. Then it barked. "Woof, woof." Toby dropped his snack. "Did that goose just bark?" "Sure did," Nina said, blinking, "and now it's chasing the mailman." They watched as the goose flapped wildly around poor Mr. McFadden, honking and barking and wagging his tail feathers. He caused such a commotion that the magical sea creature surfaced, looking for what was making so much noise. "Should we stop it?" asked Mira the mermaid, her sea glass hairpin catching the sun. "Yes," said Maggie cried, already running after the goose. "Something magical is going on, and I think it has to do with my necklace." Maggie's necklace glowed faintly as she followed the barking goose across the village. It picked up a stick in its beak and trotted in a circle and dropped it at Maggie's feet. "Aw, it wants to play fetch," said Leo, arriving with Tyler and a big bag of popcorn. "But geese don't play fetch," said Tyler, tossing a kernel. The goose caught it midair and barked again. I think it thinks it's a dog, Meggy said. Jax flipped open his notebook. A goose who thinks it's a dog? Is that even possible? Not naturally, said Luna, peeking from Meggy's pocket. But with enough magic? Sure. And look, your necklace is glowing more now that we went near him. Meggy stepped closer. Hello, goose. Good boy? The goose honked happily, sat down, and lifted one webbed foot to shake. I think we just made a new friend, Nina giggled. A very confused one. Suddenly, a poster flapped across the green, landing at their feet. It read, Dog Show, this Saturday. All breeds welcome. Best trick wins a trophy and a giant bone. Don't even think about it, Meggy warned. The goose snatched the poster and ran off honking madly. The next day, Luna's light led them to the park. They found the goose practicing tricks with Mr. Grindle, the owner of 3 poodles. He's surprisingly well behaved for a goose, Mr. Grindle said, tossing a tennis ball. Look at that hustle. The goose zoomed across the grass, fetched the ball, and dropped it proudly. Meggy sighed. We have to fix this before he walks to that dog show. How do we even start? Asked Toby. Let's figure out why he thinks he's a dog, said Jax. Did he bump his head? Eat enchanted kibble? No, said Luna. I sensed it yesterday. There's pearl magic at work. Look, he's carrying a pearl carefully in his beak. Wait, that's pearl magic? Asked Tyler. Rare, slippery, tricky, said Luna. It doesn't change your shape, just your mind. That makes sense, Meggy said. The pearl must have made him believe he's a dog. Which means, added Nina, he needs to remember what it feels like to be a goose. They decided to hold a goose day at the village pond. First, they tried goose food, like grains, lettuce, and water lilies. The goose sniffed the lettuce, honked, and pointed to a hot dog stand. He thinks goose food means food for dogs, said Mira. Next, they tried goose activities, waddling in the water, flying practice, and honking songs. The goose attempted to honk along, but it came out as a woof, woof, woof. Okay, Meggy said, wiping her forehead. Time for Plan B. What's Plan B? Asked Jas. Dog school, asked Meggy, said Meg, eyes sparkling. The next day, they marched the goose through dog school, only this time, the wrong things earned rewards. When he barked, no treat. When he honked, 2 sunflower seeds. When he rolled over, nothing. When he flapped, cheers and popcorn. Reverse training, whispered Luna. Brilliant. It worked slowly. The goose honked more, barked less, and even stretched his wings once. But then Saturday came, and so did the dog show. The goose waddled proudly into the field wearing a collar made from daisies and a name tag that said Barkley. Oh no, groaned Toby. He's competing. The crowd gasped and giggled as Barkley fetched sticks, herded balloons, and sat on command. The judges clapped. The crowd cheered. I can't believe it, said Jax. He might actually win. But Meggy watched closely. Barkley was panting now. Not the happy kind, the tired kind. His wings drooped. His honks were quiet. Something was wrong. He's exhausted, Meggy said. He's not a dog. He's trying so hard to be something he's not, and it's wearing him out. She climbed the stage and kneeled by Barkley. You don't have to win this, she said softly. You're already amazing, but you're not a dog. You're a goose, a proud, splashy, honky, wing-flapping goose. Her friends joined her, forming a circle. Remember the pond? Nina asked gently. The lily pads? Added Mira. The time you stole my popcorn and flew into a tree? Tyler laughed. You were happy then, Jack said. You were yourself. The goose looked around at them, his friends, the ones who knew who he really was. He let out a long, slow honk, and a pearl popped off his collar, landing in the grass with a flash. Whoa, said Toby. Did it just fall off? His heart remembered the truth, Lena said, glowing with pride, and the pearl couldn't hold on anymore. Back at the pond, Barkley, not just the goose again, splashed happily, diving for pebbles and leading a chorus of honks. Welcome back, Meggy said, tossing him a sunflower seed. He caught it, flapped, and honked proudly. I think he's happier this way, said Mira. He's not the best at fetch, Tyler admitted, but he is the best at flapping water onto people's faces. Everyone laughed as the gooses splashed them all. From his wings, a golden feather appeared and fluttered into Meggy's hands. That's one more wonder solved, Meggy said, smiling. But something tells me, Lena said, Wonder Shore has plenty more surprises ahead. As if on cue, a low rumble echoed across the sky. Is that a dragon? Asked Jax. Or a thundercloud shaped like a hot dog? Asked Tony. The goose honked and wildly and flew in circles. Meggy grinned. Guess we'll find out tomorrow. They all ran after Goose, laughter echoing across the village. Because sometimes helping a confused goose remember who he is takes more than magic. It takes friendship, patience, and a whole lot of sunflower seeds. And when we're kind to others, whether they bark or honk, whether they have fur, feathers, or fins, we make the world a little brighter. After all, being a true friend means seeing the best in someone, even when they forget it themselves. Another coloring page. Chapter 6, The Crab with the Golden Claw. One sunny morning, Meggy wandered along the tide pools near Grandma's beach house. Jax was busy with his family today, and she wondered what she could do to pass the time. Before she could make a plan, her shell necklace glowed with a soft shimmer. Meggy, a voice called. She turned and saw Betsy and Tyler, friends from down the street, jogging down the beach. Betsy wore a sun hat with a giant flower and carried a sketch pad under one arm. Tyler, in rolled-up cargo shorts, had a pair of snorkel goggles bouncing around his neck. Whoa, your necklace is glowing, Betsy said, wide-eyed. What does that mean? It means there's an adventure waiting, Meggy said with a grin. Want to come with me? Obviously, said Tyler. Nothing better than magical mysteries before lunch. Meggy laughed and pointed toward a rocky cove she'd never noticed before. It's coming from over there. The cliffs curved like crescent moons, sheltering a pool. The turquoise water was so clear she could see colorful shells and darting fish. Pink coral fingers reached from beneath the surface. Tiny bubbles rose like laughter from the rocks. Crabs skittered between tide pools, their shells glinting like polished pebbles. Anemones waved like underwater flowers. The whole cove felt secret, like a place only the ocean whispered about. Whoa, Betsy whispered. She knelt to draw a sea star. This place is like painting waiting to happen. A splash caught their attention. From behind a rock peeked a crab. It wasn't just any crab. It had a shimmering golden claw that caught the sunlight and sparkled like treasure. The crab ducked quickly, hiding its claw under the shell. It's okay, Meggy said gently. I saw you, and I think your claw is beautiful. The crab peeked out again, eyes blinking nervously. You don't think it's weird? Of course not, Betsy said. It's like built-in jewelry. Tyler added, if I had a golden claw, I'd use it to open coconut sodas and impress everybody. Meggy sat cross-legged in the sand. I'm Meggy. These are my friends, Betsy and Tyler. What's your name? Kip, he mumbled. Kip the glittery misfit. Luna landed on Kip's shell. What makes you different can make you special, you know. Kip sighed. Nobody wants to play with the crab with the crab who glows like gold. The others call me Clank, and they say I belong in a treasure chest. Tyler knelt beside him. That sounds like jealousy to me. Who wouldn't want a treasure claw? You just need the right crew, Betsy said with a smile. Looks like you found one. Kip looked up at them, eyes uncertain, but hopeful. Then a strange humming filled the air. The water rippled in wide, slow circles. Kip's eyes widened. It's the song current, he whispered. It only happens when something magical is about to rise from the deep. Sure enough, a swirl of bubbles rose from the center of the pool, and a stone column surfaced. It was a round, ancient, and covered in glowing seashell symbols. At the center was a round indentation shaped exactly like Kip's golden claw. Meggy, Betsy, and Tyler exchanged looks. Kip, Meggy said gently, I think this adventure was meant for you. Kip backed up. Me? No way. What if I mess it up? Tyler gave him a gentle nudge. The only way to mess it up is by not trying. Betsy drew the calm quickly in her sketchbook, then smiled. Come on, Kip. Let's make history together. Kip slowly lifted his shimmering claw and pressed it into the shape. With a click, the entire stone lit up. A pulse of light rippled outward, and with a low rumble, a part of the cliff wall split open. A waterfall spilled into a glowing underwater tunnel lined with coral. "You did it!" Meggy cried. Kip blinked. "Wow, I really did!" They swam together into the cave, Luna lighting the way with a tiny lantern. Inside, fish swam through beams of sunlight and the walls sparkled with sea glass. Tyler flipped underwater and shouted through bubbles, "Best cave ever!" At the end of the tunnel sat a pearly shell on a stone pedestal. It opened slowly. Inside lay a glowing pearl as big as a plum. Meggy reached out, but before she touched it, the cave trembled. Suddenly, dark shadows zipped past. A game of squawking seagulls had followed them in. Shiny thing," one cowed, diving toward the pearl. "They're going to take it," Meggy cried. Kip stepped in front of her, holding up his golden claw. The gulls hesitated. Then one swooped in anyway. Clank! Kip's claw glowed brighter and released a burst of golden sparks. The startled gulls shrieked and fluttered back, squawking in confusion. "Whoa," Betsy said. "That was like crab magic." The tunnel echoed with the sound of retreating wings. "You protected us," Meggy cheered. Kip looked down at his claw, still sparkling. "I guess I'm not a misfit after all." "You're a hero," Luna said proudly. Meggy gently lifted the glowing pearl. It pulsed warmly in her hands. She tucked it into her satchel, and her necklace glowed brighter, as if welcoming the new magic. On their way out, Kip looked around the coral-lit cave. "I never imagined I could do something this important." "You always could," Betsy said. "You just needed a chance." Tyler gave him a thumbs up, and now you've got the coolest origin story ever. Back on the beach, the tide was low, and a group of young sea creatures had gathered near the cove. When they saw Kip, one of the young crabs whispered, "Is that the crab with the golden claw?" "He's glowing," another said. Meggy nudged Kip. "You go say hi." Kip gulped. "What if they still think I'm weird?" Tyler grinned. "Then weird just got way cooler." "Show them who you really are," Meggy said. With that, Kip scuttled over, golden claw held high. The other crabs gathered around. One said, "Is it true you opened the ancient tunnel?" Kip nodded and stopped a gang of shiny, snatching seagulls. The crowd erupted in cheers. Kip blushed under his shell. As Meggy, Betsy, and Tyler waved goodbye, Kip called out, "Come visit again." "I will," Meggy called back. "And thanks, Kip. You reminded us that being different is something to be proud of." Chapter 7. The Lighthouse That Forgot to Shine. One cloudy evening, Meggy and Jack sat on Grandma's porch with a warm mug of cocoa in their hands. The waves whispered in the distance, and the salty breeze carried stories from the sea, but Meggy noticed that something seemed different. She looked out toward the ocean and frowned. "Grandma," she said, "where's the lighthouse light?" Grandma squinted at the distant shape on the cliff. You're right. It hasn't shone in the 3 nights." "But ships need it," Meggy said. "What if someone gets lost in the dark?" Grandma gave a small smile. "Some lights fade when they forget who they are." Meggy tilted her head. "Lights can forget?" "Anything magical can," Grandma said softly. "Even people." Jax turned to Meggy and noticed her seashell necklace was glowing brighter than ever. He pointed to it, and Meggy grinned. "Time to help." Guided by Luna the Firefly, Meggy and Jax followed a winding path through the sand and up the tall cliff. Wind tugged on their sweaters, and the sea crashed far below like a roaring giant. Scrubby dune grass whispered secrets. Driftwood lay scattered like bones of ancient ships. At the top stood the old Sunny Cove lighthouse. Its white tower was streaked with sea spray and shadow, rising against the darkening sky. But the lantern room, the glass chamber at the very top, was dark. They climbed the spiraling stairs. The iron railing was cool and rust speckled under their fingers. Their footsteps echoed with each step. The sound mingled with the creaks of old wood and the soft tapping of rain against the narrow windows. The scent of salt and thyme hung in the air. At last, they reached the door with a brass knob shaped like a star. Meggy turned it, and they stepped into silence. The room glowed faintly with leftover magic, like a memory of light. The lantern itself stood in the center, tall and proud but dim. Cobwebs hung from its corners, swaying like delicate curtains in the breeze. Dust floated lazily in golden beams from the cracks in the glass. Meggy took a deep breath. "Hello?" she said gently. "Lighthouse spirit?" A soft hum answered like a sigh through glass. From the shadows drifted a shimmering shape made of light and fog-like flickers. It was a girl-shaped glow with hair like mist and eyes like starlight. She floated just above the floor, her glow barely visible. "I'm Shine," the spirit whispered. "Or I was." Meggy stepped forward. "I'm Meggy, and this is Jax," she added, gesturing to her friend. "I think you are still Shine. You're just dim right now." Shine turned away. "I used to shine so bright. I guided sailors, welcomed travelers, even kept sea monsters away. But the world changed. Fewer ships came. People forgot. And I forgot too." Jax tilted his head. "Forgot what?" Shine whispered, "Who I am." The wind howled outside. Rain tapped on the windows, each drop like a quiet knock from the sky. Meggy's eyes sparkled. "Then we'll help you remember." First, Meggy and Jax explored the lantern room with Luna. "Let's look for clues," she said, "things that made Shine proud." Behind an old panel, they found a drawer full of glowing charts. These were old maps of the stars and oceans. "She used to help sailors find their way home," Luna said, "because she was a guide. Someone people could count on." Next, Jax found a box of thank you notes, some hundreds of years old. One had a drawing of a smiling girl waving in the lighthouse saying, "Thank you for the light." Shine drifted closer. Her glow brightened just a little. "I remember that girl. She waved every night." Then they found an old melody in a dusty music box labeled Shine's Song. When Meggy turned the key, a soft lullaby played. It was filled with notes that shimmered like moonlight. Shine's form flickered and grew. "That was my song. I used to hum it while shining." "You haven't lost your light," Jax said gently. "You just forgot how much you matter." Shine blinked. "But what if I shine again and no one notices?" Meggy thought for a moment, then had an idea. "Wait here," she told Jax, Luna, and Shine. She raced down the stairs. Before long, she returned with Grandma and a bundle of small mirrors and shiny shells. They even had a disco ball from the attic. "We're going to show you," Meggy said. "Your light still matters." Everyone placed mirrors and reflectors all around the cliff and beach. When Meggy and Jax stood beside the lantern and looked up at Shine. "Ready?" they asked. Shine took a deep breath. "Okay." She closed her eyes and sang her song. The music drifted like fog over waves. Her body began to glow. It was soft at first, then brighter, until the whole room shimmered with golden light. The lantern burst to life. A beam of warm, magical light shot into the sky. It sliced through clouds, dancing across the waves. The mirrors caught it and spun it outward. The disco ball glittered, casting sparkles across the sand. Down below, lights flickered on the village. Doors opened. People looked up. Children pointed. Sailors saluted. Grandma beamed. "Look, Shine," Meggy whispered. "They do remember." Shine glowed even brighter, her form now strong and beautiful. "I am the light," she said. "Thank you, Meggy. You reminded me." From the heart of the lantern floated a small, glowing gem. It was clear like glass, but filled with shimmering, swirling light. "A shimmer stone," Shine said, placing it in Meggy's hand. "It holds a spark of my light and a piece of your courage." Meggy added to her necklace beside the blueberry charm. It pulsed warmly, as if proud. "Will you keep shining now?" Jax asked. Shine smiled. "Always." As Meggy and Jax made their way back down the cliff with Luna at their side, the lighthouse beams lit their path with a golden ribbon. "She just needed someone to believe in her," Meggy asked. Jax nodded. "Sometimes I think we all forget who we are. The trick is finding someone who reminds us," Luna said. Meggy squeezed her necklace. It'll be that someone for as many magical friends as I can, because kindness can rekindle lost lights, confidence can restore courage, and one small gift, believing in someone, can shine brighter than a lantern. With that, Meggy and Jack skipped ahead, landing softly in the sand. They were already wondering where the next adventure might take them. Chapter 8. The Puzzle of the Painted Shells. Meggy and Grandma had spent the morning together in the cozy beach house kitchen, slicing fruit and rolling dough for Grandma's famous peach ham pies. After the pies came out of the oven to cool, they wiped down the counters and opened the windows wide. Let's stretch our legs while the tide's low, Grandma had said, smiling. The ocean always has something to say if you're willing to listen. Meggy strolled barefoot down the quiet beach beside her grandma. The soft sand cooled beneath their feet. Her necklace glowed. That usually meant something important was nearby. But it wasn't urgent. Luna peeked up at her seashell hideaway, wings twitching. You feel it too, don't you? Something's waiting to be noticed. Meggy nodded, but I don't see anything. Grandma shaded her eyes with one hand and smiled. The beach has a funny way of hiding its secrets until you're ready to find them. Meggy almost missed it. Half buried in the sand, a seashell unlike the rest. It was smooth and flat, painted with swirling orange and blue lines. Not natural stripes. These were brush strokes, careful and human. She picked it up. On the underside was a spiral symbol. Grandma peered over her shoulder. Now that looks like a secret code, or maybe an invitation. A few steps ahead, another shell glinted in the light. It was smaller, zigzagged, with a triangle on the back. Then another that was shaped like a teardrop, its dots arranged like tiny footprints. Meggy's eyes widened. We're following clues. It's like a beach treasure hunt. Luna fluttered above them. It's a puzzle. Someone is asking you to look closer. Together, Meggy and her grandmother gathered more painted shells scattered along the shore. 10 in total, even with strange markings, numbers, arrows, symbols. One even blinked faintly when turned toward the sea. They're trying to tell us something, Meggy whispered. They arranged the shells in rows, then in circles. Still nothing. Grandma chuckled softly. Maybe we're working too hard. Some mysteries don't like to be chased. Meggy slumped. I'm never going to figure this out. Luna landed on her knee. Try thinking softer. Don't rush. Be still. Let the shells speak to you. Grandma sat down in the sand, patting the spot behind her. Let's just listen, sweetheart. That's where most of the answers start. So they sat in stillness. The sea whispered. A gull called overhead. The wind played with dune grass. And underneath it all, the quiet beat of the waves matched the rhythm in Meggy's chest. She opened her eyes and studied the shells again. Really studied them. The blinking shell pulsed in rhythm with the waves. The triangle's point glowed when held to the sun. The spiral matched the curling current just behind them. It's not just what we see, Meggy said. It's what we feel. Grandma nodded. That's this thing about beach magic. It doesn't shout. It hums. Carefully, they placed the shells in curved line that mirrored the shoreline. The blinking one pulsed faster. The others glowed faintly. Then the sand shimmered. A glowing X appeared just below the tide pools. A treasure map, Meggy whispered. No ordinary treasure, Luna murmured. That leads to the Coral Library. Grandma's eyes widened. The Coral Library? My mother used to tell me bedtime stories about it. A place where memories live inside seashells and tide poems change every day. Meggy stood, excitement bubbling. Then we have to find it. Grandma smiled, brushing sand from her skirt. Then let's follow the story, Meggy. Together. Meggy and Grandma made their way across the beach, stepping carefully between tide pools. At the X, a flat boulder rested like a sleeping seal. Grandma tilted her head. Looks ordinary to me. Meggy knelt and placed her hand on the stone. Let's just trust stillness. She closed her eyes, breathed, waited. A faint vibration tickled her palm. The rock trembled, then slowly slid aside. Beneath was a spiral staircase carved from coral stone glowing with soft light. Now that's something, Grandma said, eyes wide. It looks exactly like how my mother described it in her stories. They descended together hand in hand. Shells lined the walls, whispering songs too ancient to understand, but somehow comforting. At the bottom, a round chamber bloomed with color. Coral shelves held glowing bubbles, each one alive with motion. A child painting dreams into the sky. A seal building a castle from laughter. A girl helping a bird mend its wing. It's beautiful, Grandma breathed. A voice echoed gently. Welcome, shell solvers. From the back stepped a tall figure. She was elegant, made of pearl. Her hair shimmered with strands of kelp and tide. I am Amara, keeper of the coral library, she said. You open the way not with speed, but with stillness, with focus, with heart. Meggy glanced at her grandmother and smiled. We almost gave up. But you didn't, Amara said. You listened. You shared the moment. This is the magic of mindfulness and connection. She lifted a glowing bubble and held it to them. Inside, a pearl spiraled with gentle light. This is the memory pearl, Amaro said. It helps you notice what others miss and remember what matters most. Meggy touched it, then passed it to Grandma. It's warm, she whispered, like kindness. Back at the beach, the painted shells were gone. They had washed away or maybe returned to wherever they came from. Meggy and her grandmother sat side by side in the sand, hands resting gently in their laps. Grandma, Meggy asked, can we invite everyone in the neighborhood over to share the pies after dinner? Of course, Meggy, Grandma said, brushing a bit of flour from her sleeve. That sounds like a lovely way to end the day. It'll help us make new memories, Meggy said with a smile, already imagining her friends around the table laughing and eating peach pie. And they did make new memories that night. By sunset, the backyard buzzed with voices and the smell of warm peaches and cinnamon. The picnic table was covered in mismatched plates and extra forks just in case someone wanted seconds. Or thirds. Toby took a bite and let out a dramatic sigh. This pie just made my whole week. Nina grinned. I'd write a poem about it if I could stop eating long enough. Leo leaned back in his chair and rubbed his belly. I think I'm experiencing pie happiness. Is that a thing? Jax held up his fork. It is now. Let's make it a rule. No summer is complete without Meggy and Grandma's peach pie. Tyler had peach on his chin and didn't even notice. Can I live here, he asked. I mean, for the pie, and also maybe the beach, but mostly the pie. Betsy laughed and clicked her fork gently against Meggy's. Best recipe ever. Friends and sunshine and pie equals a perfect day. Meggy looked down around the table, eyes full of joy. Everyone was smiling, plates full, hearts fuller. This, she whispered to Grandma, feels like a real treasure. And Grandma squeezed her hand. That's because it is. Chapter 9, The Talking Toilet. It was a sunny Saturday morning when Meggy dropped the magical pearl into the toilet. She hadn't meant to. The pearl had fallen from her necklace while she was washing her hands. One tiny bounce, one swoosh of water, and plop! Oh no, Meggy groaned. Peering into the bowl, I have to get it back. But before she could reach for her plunger, the toilet spoke. I really want to do that, it said in a deep, echoey voice. Meggy yelped in surprise. Did you just talk? The toilet cleared its throat. Yes, and may I just say, you've been brushing your teeth beautifully. Excellent circular motion. Meggy backed out of the bathroom. This is too weird. Way too weird. Just then, Toby knocked at the front door. Hey, Meggy, ready for the tea party? Oh no, Grandma's garden tea was today. All the neighborhood kids would be over soon. They'll be sipping lemonade, nibbling scones, and definitely not expecting bathroom advice from a toilet. Meggy opened the door. Toby? Jax? Nina? Hi, you're early. We brought lemon tarts, Toby announced. And finger puppets, Nina added, waving a tiny felt frog. Awesome, Meggy said weakly. Quick question. anyone ever hear of a talking toilet? As if on cue, the toilet called out from the hallway, "Don't forget to floss, and never hide broken dishes and pretend it was the cat." Jax blinked. That came from the bathroom? "It swallowed my pearl," Meggy exclaimed. "The magic one." "Cool," said Toby, charging down the hall. "Wait, don't," Meggy began, but it was too late. Toby peeked in. "Hi, toilet." "Hello, young sir," the toilet replied cheerfully. "Your socks don't match." "I like it that way," Toby said. The toilet sighed. "I'm not sure this is safe," Nina said, peering nervously around the corner. Just then, Grandma walked past holding a tray of teacups. "Meggy, dear, the others are arriving. Let's keep things tidy and calm. All right?" "Right," Meggy said. "Super calm." Behind her, the toilet shouted, "Apologize to Nina for snapping about the jelly jar." "Is that someone shouting in the plumbing?" Grandma asked. "I think the radio's on," Meggy said quickly. Grandma frowned. "Turn it off, sweetheart. We have guests." Meggy gathered her friends in the hallway. "We have to fix this before the guests hear it. If Grandma finds out, she might not keep the magical artifacts in the house again." "Okay," said Jax, already pulling out a notebook. "Let's list what we know." "The pearl is making the toilet super talkative," Nina said. "And now it won't stop giving advice," Toby asked. "Helpful advice, but way too personal," said Meggy. "Don't forget to say sorry when you're wrong," the toilet chimed in. Meggy winced. "That was about the jelly jar thing, huh?" she said quietly to Nina. Nina nodded. "I was grumpy and I blamed you when I knocked it over. I'm sorry." "It's okay," Nina said, smiling. "It's just jam." Just then the toilet added, "Emotional maturity unlocked. Progress achieved." Everyone blinked. Did it just celebrate your apology?" asked Jax. "I think so," Meggy said. "That's new." "Let's just ask it to quiet down," Nina suggested. Meggy stepped into the bathroom. "Hello, toilet." "Hello. Would you like to hear the top 5 ways to arrange a cutlery drawer?" "No, thank you. Actually, I'd like to ask you something else." "Go ahead. Could you please stop giving advice for a little while? We're having guests over and it's making things kind of chaotic." The toilet paused. "But I'm being helpful." "You are," Meggy said. "Even when it was annoying, you were right." She looked at Nina. "Sometimes advice isn't fun to hear, but it helped." The toilet hummed thoughtfully. Message received. Quiet mode engaged. It flushed once and fell silent. Just in time, the doorbell rang and more kids arrived. "Tea time," said Meggy. "Let's go." The tea party was a huge success. The kids sipped lemonade, shared jokes, and played card games. Grandma told one of her famous riddles, and Jack's only dropped half a tart. And the toilet stayed quiet. Mostly. Every now and then, it whispered things like, "Don't stack spoons with forks. It stresses them out." Or, "Wash your hands, even if you only thought about touching the cat." But it meant well, and Meggy had learned something important. Sometimes advice we don't want to hear is exactly what we need, and sometimes saying sorry really does make everything better. That night, Meggy gently fished the pearl out of using her wand and a pair of salad tongs, sanitized, of course. The toilet sighed like it had just finished a good book. "Thanks," it said. "I think I'll take a nap now." Meggy smiled. "Good night, toilet." It snored once, glub, and went silent. Meggy tucked the pearl safely back into her necklace and whispered, "No more bathroom drops, okay?" The pearl sparkled in agreement. Chapter 10. The day the house turned upside down. Meggy was dusting Grandma's bookshelf when she gave a mighty achoo. The force was enough to push the magical pearl in the pocket out. It bounced off a broom and plopped into the vase of fresh daisies. "Ah!" Meggy shouted as she tumbled into the ceiling, or what else used to be the ceiling. The couch, chairs, and coffee table clung firmly above her head, while the rug floated in the air like a lazy cloud. A bowl of fruit hovered near the window, and juice from the pitcher soared upward in the sparky drops like a lemon-scented fireworks. Meggy tried to scramble to her feet. She quickly realized she needed to stay on her hands and knees because everything felt like a little off balance. "What am I going to do? I'm supposed to help Grandma clean before I leave." Luma fluttered nearby. Pearl magic can be hard to reverse. You might need to clean while floating. Could be fun. Meggy didn't think leaving Grandma upside down would be fun. She wanted to surprise her by fixing everything more before morning, so she could call for backup. Jax, Nina, Toby, Leo, and Tyler arrived within minutes. Whoa, Nina gasped. This place looks like someone shook up a dollhouse. Did gravity quit its job? Toby asked, watching the curtains wiggle like seaweed. We're going to fix it, Meggy declared, before sunrise. Let's clean, sort, and unflip everything. Operation right side up, Jax said, saluting. The first problem was the furniture. The couch had cozied up to the ceiling fan, and the dining table was somehow balanced on two legs. Tyler and Leo climbed the wall and suction cupped gloves from Grandma's garden tools. They were for climbing trees to pick lemons, Tyler said. Hang upside down? Now we're pruning the furniture. Got the armchair, Leo called, tying it to the broom like a parade float. Meanwhile, Nina organized floating books that kept flipping around open midair. No poetry stays with poetry. She scolded a hardcover that tried to dance into the cookbooks. Meggy's only task was keeping the pitcher of juice right side up, but it kept tipping over. Then came the musical rug. Every time someone touched it, it played with a silly tune. Jack stepped on it, and it sang, "Oh, we're upside down, don't wear a frown." It rhymes, Jax yelled, delighted. I love this rug. It keeps chasing me, Nina said, as it scooted after her like a clingy puppy. It thinks I'm its owner. Careful, said Meggy, dodging a flying spoon. The pearl's magic is still wild. We have to fix the house without triggering more chaos. Luna, flitting around and overseeing things, called out, "Try singing to it. Magic loves music." So they did. Meggy strummed the guitar. Jax beat a rhythm with pots, and everyone sang, "Put the floor back where it goes. No more juice upon my toes." And slowly, softly, the rug settled. The juice floated back into the pitcher with a polite splash. They worked all night. Leo found the pearl under the couch, or above it. Nina alphabetized the bookshelf, and Tyler gently guided each plant back into its pot. At last, the living room looked normal again. Meggy held the glowing pearl. It hummed softly in her palm. "We did it," she whispered. "No more upside down, snacking on the ceiling," Toby said, wiping his nose with pride. "Though that was kind of awesome," Jax added. Nina smiled. "We're a good team." As dawn broke, golden light streamed through the windows. Meggy hugged each of her friends. "Thanks for helping me," she said. "You didn't just fix the house. You made something magical feel even more magical." Not long after they left, Grandma came down the hall with Meggy's suitcase. "I'm proud of you, Meggy. You've been so helpful the whole time you were here. Helping me cook and clean is so kind of you." Meggy blinked back tears. "I don't want to leave." "I know," Grandma said softly. "But the magic you found here doesn't leave you. It lives in every good thing you do. Even when I'm back home? Especially then." Later that day, Meggy unpacked her bags at home. She was tired, happy, and a little wistful. Then she heard it. Bark! She opened her backpack, and out popped Kip, the crab, holding a stick in his claws like a dog playing fetch. Meggy laughed so hard she cried. And in that moment, she understood that magic isn't just spells and floating juice. It's friends who show up to help you out. It's laughter that cleans your heart. It's a love that flips your world right side up. And it never truly ends. The end.
Hi, boys and girls. Thank you so much for reading with me. Please remember to like and subscribe so we can read more books together. Bye.